Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahushai, Bayishim, Rakah Kudash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bayishim, Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to Ya'akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the Brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'll be reading from an article on the economiccollapseblog.com titled, Job Losses, Bankruptcies, and Store Closings are all at apocalyptic levels as the U.S. economic collapse rolls on, and things are only going to get worse from here on out. This is just the beginning of sorrows. Yahweh Bayishim Yahushai is systematically tearing down Babylon the Great, which is the biblical name for the United States of America. So you better buckle up your seatbelt because this ride's about to get a hell of a lot bumpier. The last 4 months have been an unending nightmare for the U.S. economy. Businesses are shutting down at a pace that we have never seen before in American history. The retail apocalypse has reached an entirely new level that none of the experts were anticipating prior to this pandemic. And even before this whole coronavirus situation came about, the U.S. economy was edging closer and closer to total collapse, another Great Depression, though this Great Depression is going to be the greatest and final depression. And we are in the midst of the greatest spike in unemployment that the United States has ever experienced. On Thursday, we learned that another 1.3 million Americans filed new claims for unemployment benefits last week, and that number has now been above 1 million for 16 consecutive weeks. Completely unsustainable. You'd have to be a nut job to think that it was. Things were supposed to be getting back to normal by now, but that hasn't happened. Instead, we continue to see a tsunami of job losses that is absolutely unprecedented in American history, because we're living in the last seconds of the United States of America. There is going to be no Make America Great Again. We're also living in the last seconds of the rulership of you Edomites, or so-called white people. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12. I'm going to read verse 3 to 4. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the keepers of the house are these economists and Wall Street types, and they're definitely trembling seeing how chaotic the stock market is right now. All these indicators like the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500 are losing points. So they're scrambling to find any good news they can to try to build back up investor confidence in the market. But it's all futile because just like the Titanic, the U.S. is going down quickly. And the strong men bow themselves and the grinders cease because they are few. And grinders are workers, and we're definitely seeing how few the grinders are becoming. As we just read in the first paragraph of that article, for the past 16 weeks, more than 1.3 million Americans have been filing for unemployment. And those that look out of the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding or working is low. And it's not just small businesses and mom and pop places that are filing for bankruptcy and laying off workers. As we'll see later on in that article, major retailers and well-known brands are also filing for bankruptcy and closing locations all across the country. And like I said earlier in the video, even before this whole coronavirus situation and lockdown came about, the U.S. economy was edging closer and closer to total collapse. You have the retail apocalypse, which is ongoing, jobs being outsourced to other countries, automation, etc., etc. And now in the media, they're talking about an uptick in coronavirus infections all across the country, and these politicians are reenacting lockdown measures, and they're going to be even more invasive and draconian this time. Down here in Louisiana, just about every store you go to, you have to wear a mask. And I was talking to a lady at a restaurant that I ordered some food at, and she said that if they allow people in their place without wearing a mask, they could be fined up to $500. And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, meaning people are going to wake up early to try to find a job, but in the end it's going to be futile because jobs are becoming scarcer and scarcer out here. And all the daughters of music shall be brought low. When we look back at the old peaks for unemployment claims, they almost seem laughable compared to what we are experiencing now. The highest prior weekly total for new unemployment claims was 695,000 in October of 1982, according to Labor Department data. During the Great Recession, the country's last downturn, weekly claims peaked at 665,000 in March of 2009. For those that aren't old enough to remember, the recession of the early 1980s and the recession of 2008 and 2009 were both really, really painful. But of course, there weren't anything like this. Sometimes it is hard to believe that the numbers have gotten so bad. According to Wolf Richter, the number of continuing claims that were filed last week under all state and federal unemployment programs is the highest that we have ever seen. The total number of people who continued to claim unemployment compensation in the week ended July 4th under all state and federal unemployment insurance programs, including gig workers, jumped by 1.41 million people to 32.92 million, not seasonally adjusted, the Department of Labor reported this morning. It was the highest and most gut-wrenching level ever. The number of people who continue to receive state unemployment insurance, blue columns, has been ticking down as more people got their jobs back than newly unemployed flooded the state unemployment systems. But the number of people claiming federal unemployment insurance, including gig workers, under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance PUA program continues to surge, red columns, which causes the total number of people claiming unemployment benefits under all programs to rise. Up to this point, the emergency measures that Congress put in place to help unemployment workers have definitely eased the pain for millions upon millions of people that have lost their jobs, but a number of those emergency measures are about to expire. Several benefits were developed in March to help ease the financial strains on Americans during the coronavirus pandemic. Those are set to come to an end before July 31st, which could impact 20 million Americans, MarketWatch reports. The CARES Act, which was signed into law on March 27th by President Donald Trump, provided benefits like enhanced unemployment payments to supplement lost income from layoffs. It also includes a clause to delay evictions for 120 days. Of course, Congress could choose to extend some or all of the elements in the CARES Act, but that would mean borrowing and spending more giant amounts of money that we do not currently have. And hey, printing more money is only going to further devalue the US dollar, which is all by design. The elites want to crash the US dollar and bring in a global digital currency. There are plenty of articles coming out talking about cryptocurrencies and state-backed digital currencies. Look up something called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And even then, this is all just a stepping stone towards getting everybody microchipped with the RFID or NFC microchip implant, which is the biblical mark of the beast. Meanwhile, we are seeing businesses fail at a rate that is absolutely staggering. According to the Washington Post, more than 100,000 businesses have permanently closed their doors during this pandemic, and Bloomberg just posted an article about 110 major companies that had declared bankruptcy here in 2020. Retailers, airliners, restaurants, but also sports leagues, a cannabis company, and an archdiocese plagued by sex abuse allegations. These are some of the more than 110 companies that declared bankruptcy in the U.S. this year and blamed COVID-19 in part for their demise. Sadly, the bankruptcy announcements just keep on going. This week, we learned that Brooks Brothers has filed for bankruptcy protection. The coronavirus pandemic has now claimed one of the country's oldest and most prestigious retailers. Brooks Brothers, pioneer of the polo and uniform of the polished prepster, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy court protection from creditors on Wednesday as it continues to search for a buyer. This hit me particularly hard because I have had Brooks Brothers shirts in my closet ever since I was a young man. They have always made great products, and I just assumed that they would always be around. Of course, lots of other iconic retailers are failing as well. Before too long, naming the major retailers that are still operating successfully may be easier than trying to name the vast number of major retailers that have gone belly up. Back in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 4, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding or working is low. Store closings are happening fast and furious these days, and that isn't likely to change anytime soon. Starbucks just announced that they will be closing 400 locations. Dunkin' Donuts just announced that they will be closing 450 locations, and Bed Bath & Beyond has increased the number of stores that they will be closing to approximately 200. Bed Bath & Beyond announced Wednesday that it plans to close roughly 200 stores in the next 2 years. The retail chain, which also operates Bye Bye Baby, Christmas Tree Shops, and Harmon Face Values, said it would be mainly closing Bed Bath & Beyond stores starting later this year. The announcement came as the company released its quarterly earnings report on Wednesday. If you are still not convinced that the retail industry is facing an unprecedented cataclysm, I think the following list will do the trick. Forbes has been tracking the major store closing announcements of 2020, and their list was recently shared by Zero Hedge. And it's one thing to read about the retail apocalypse and the collapse of the U.S. economy, and it's another thing entirely to see it with your own eyes. And you'll be surprised by some of the businesses on this list. And some of these businesses I've gone to in the past, but their locations down here in the New Orleans area have shut down. Forbes store closure list in 2020, and I'll just go through some of the more well-known names on this list. Chuck E. Cheese, 54 stores, GNC, 1,200 stores, and the 2 locations that I know of down here have closed down. J. Crew, 54 stores, J.C. Penney, 154 stores, Kmart, 44 stores, and again, the locations that I know of down here have gone down. Modell's Sporting Goods, 153 stores, Neiman Marcus, 20 stores, Pier 1 Imports, 936 stores, Sears, 51 stores, and the location that I know of down here has gone out of business. Signet Jewelers, 232 stores, Tuesday Morning, 230 stores, AT&T, 250 stores, Bath & Body Works, 50 stores, Bed Bath & Beyond, 44 stores, Bloomingdale's, 1 store, CVS Pharmacy, 22 stores, Express, 66 stores, Forever 21, 15 stores, GameStop, 320 stores, Gap, 230 stores, Guess, 100 stores, Hallmark, 16 stores. Got Lowe's Canada at 34 stores, Macy's, 125 stores, Microsoft, 77 stores, Nordstrom, 16 stores, Office Depot, 90 stores, Party City, 21 stores, Starbucks, 400 stores, Victoria's Secret, 250 stores, Walgreens, 100 stores, Walmart, 2 stores, etc., etc. Hey, that's a lot of businesses closing up shop. This week, the number of newly confirmed cases of COVID-19 has surged to the highest level that we have seen yet, and that means that fear of COVID-19 is going to continue to paralyze economic activity in the United States for the foreseeable future. Back in Ecclesiastes 12 verse 3, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble. That's it with this article. Hey, but as Joachim can see, things aren't looking good for the good old United States of America, Babylon the Great. And again, there will be no Make America Great Again. The United States is on its last leg, and it still has race wars to look forward to, civil wars to look forward to, martial law, troops gunning down people in the streets, even more pestilences, famines, detention centers, and ultimately nuclear missiles hitting this place, turning it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. But now I'm going to close it out in Isaiah 24, verse 10 through 11. The city of confusion is broken down, the United States of America, Babylon the Great. And what does Babylon mean in the Hebrew? Babel, or confusion. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in. And the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. And hey, that crying for wine is people looking for answers to all these different things going on. Because while these people had to stay at their house during this lockdown, they had a lot of free time on their hands to look on the internet. So they started getting into a lot of these so-called conspiracy theories and are waking up to the fact that things are not as they seem, that there's an agenda out there to take away people's rights and put them under lockdown so they'll be slaves in the coming New World Order. Hey, but the main truth you can find is what's being preached by the men of the Lord, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, because we're breaking down the prophecies of the Bible in 144% truth and telling you exactly what's going to happen. And if you're an Israelite or a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, what you need to do to get back into the good graces of your power, Yahweh Ba'ishim Yahushai, so you could possibly be of the elect and also have that protective hedge of Yahweh Ba'ishim Yahushai over you for when all these calamities of Jacob's trouble really pop off. And you can clearly see that all the joy and mirth in America is darkened and going. The nightlife scene is pretty much dead. Very few restaurants allow you to eat inside or even outside. A lot of it's just takeout orders. You got to wear a mask. People are losing their jobs, etc., etc. And the fireworks haven't even really started yet. Again, this is just the beginning of sorrows. So with this video, I hope you sincere Akim are edified. Just keep strong and keep pushing this word. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathens, chiefly Esau, Edom. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.